Hello everyone, welcome once again to Omens by Bags and Omens. I'm your host Ryan, and welcome to the third week of October, third week of the month, which means we'll be diving into Beyond Tarot. I'm still not sure what exactly I'm calling this. Excuse me. But I kind of have an idea of what I'm going through. So, today we're going to be looking into the astrological sign of Libra, the rune Laguz, stone Labradorite, and the herb Thyme. And then, since it's Libra season, or well, nearing the end of Libra season, we'll be doing an attract fairy friends spell for our spell today. So yeah. I did have the thought that maybe since this sign starts switching over, come about the third week of the month, maybe I should do the upcoming sign instead of the one we're in. But I'll have to get back to you on that because I kind of already started, and I don't want to miss out. Maybe I'll do it later on when rotations come around again. Anyway, alright, so let's dive into it. So, Libra is it's the first sign of the season of fall, so that makes it a cardinal sign. It's the sign that begins a season, so each of the 12 astrological signs split the year into 12, well, technically there's 4 seasons, but there are 12 sections of that season. 12 sections of 4 seasons. Not one season split into 12. Each season gets split into 3. So each astrological sign has a part to play in that season. So the first sign of a season is the cardinal sign, so Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, I believe. Those are our 4 cardinal signs. Those are the 4 signs that begin a season. So, like I said, Libra begins the fall season, even though we've already had Mabon, which is kind of our first fall celebration on the 8th. Excuse me, something in my throat. On the well, what was originally started with Wicca, where they split the year into 8 sections. So Mabon is the kind of the first fall celebration, or is it the second? I think it's the second. So even though technically, going by the wheel of the year, we're actually heading towards the last fall celebration of Samhain. Libra technically is the beginning of fall. So, though granted that wheel of the year thing is based more on an agricultural, so it's more like the harvest season is kind of the end of summer, beginning of fall, and the last of the harvest is the beginning of fall. So there's a slight difference. So that's why it's where that difference is. But astrologically, it's the beginning of fall. The sun has entered Libra last month on the 22nd, I believe it was. And it'll finish in the sign of Libra on the 23rd of this month, I believe. So later on this week, either Thursday or Friday. And I only know how to keep track of that because my sister's birthday is basically on the last day of Libra season. She's a cusp baby. Libra is also an air sign. It's one of the 3 air signs. I totally know how to do division. And it's basically, like I said, it's a cardinal sign, so it's a cardinal air sign. So it's that first burst of air. It's so So whereas the other two air signs are Gemini and Aquarius, right? So Gemini is immutable, so it's constantly going back and forth trying to look at all the different signs. So you could think of that as kind of more of a whirlwind. Aquarius is the fixed air sign, so it's direct, it's ready to go, it's positioned, it'd be like a straight gust of wind. Libra is that first few puffs of air, that first beginning where it's just starting to pick up and move around, I'm not sure what it's gonna do yet, but you know what I'm talking about. So it's that kind of air sign. Its direction, apparently, I did not know this, their apparently directions is west, and I got this, where did I pick this up from? It was a apothecary. I was looking up the herbs associated with Libra, and came across an apothecary website that did a whole thing on each of the signs. So apparently direction is west, which kind of makes sense because it's the first fall sign. So fall, autumn is associated with the direction of west traditionally, because we're slowly starting to move towards that dark, and west is where the sun sets, so it's ending. It's this direction of endings. That was a lot of S's. Of course, it's season is autumn. In astrology, in the astrological houses, each sign rules a different house. So Libra rules the 7th house. And I should have totally looked up what the 7th house means. Oh, wait, yeah, I remember. Duh, it's Libra. Honestly, if you forget if you know which sign rules which house, you can kind of, and you know your signs, you can kind of remember what that house means and vice versa. So Libra tends to rule interpersonal partnerships, whereas its polar opposite, Aries, is me, I. Libra is we, us, is we, us. That just sounded hilarious. So 7th house is kind of house of partnerships, of, yep, all I can think of the keyword is partnerships. It's where you connect with other people, how you connect with other people in your natal chart, what is in your 7th house, kind of which astrological sign it's fallen on, which planets are in there, which direction they're going, what kind of aspects you have with each of those planets, kind of shows how you interact with other people in the world, whether it be your family, your close partnerships, even your business partnerships, anything. Libra is anything that has to do with connection between more than one person. That totally makes sense. It does make sense in my brain. Because, I mean, you can be connected with yourself. Sorry. Side tangent, explaining how my brain works. When I say connection with more than one person, I'm thinking along the lines of you can have a connection with yourself. I mean, okay, if you have anything to do with paganism or whatever, you kind of understand connecting with yourself. So connection with more than one person. So if you even throw in one more person in there, so you get 2 people, those kinds of connections, that's what Libra rules. That ability to connect with with other people, be it 1 other person, 2 other people, 3 other people, whatever. And how you connect it. It could be siblings, your parents, your bosses, your coworkers, your lovers, your boyfriends, your friends with benefits, whatever. Anything interpersonal, that is Libra in the 7th house. That's what those connections are. That's why Libra is kind of known as the social butterfly. Because, God, my hair's sticking up. Because it has to do with those connections. Libras tend to want to connect with other people. Now, can't go just off the sun sign, that's just your core being. But yeah, that's kind of your keywords, is Libra equals connections. Which is part of also why sign, their symbol of Libra is the scales. So you think scales, it's like one or the other. Libras are so indecisive. The reason for that indecisiveness, I can tell you as a Libra, is because I'm literally looking at both sides. I'm not just seeing, oh, these scales, I need to put a little here and a little here, and we're balanced. No, it's what's in this side. I need to dig through, see what all this is, and then I need to do the same over here. And then I can figure out how to bring those into balance, how to make them steady, how to actually get all sides of the argument and figure out as close as I can to the truth. That's a big reason why Libra's tarot card, the tarot card associated with Libra, is Justice. And this is my Mermaid Tarot, by the way. It's the one I'm going to use. Because they need to know. I don't know about other Libras, but for me, I need the truth as much as possible, as close to as possible that truth as I can get. Which means I need to know all different sides. Even my dad does it. He's also a Libra. And while we disagree on a lot of stuff, I will say that's one thing I do appreciate about him is even though we have very polar opposing points of view and we don't get along on a whole lot of stuff, we do get along well enough. And okay, I'm going to kind of share a bit of a story. So, for example, I happened to be, I had my aunt with me on as a Facebook friend. She's very Christian, very conservative. I'm one of those stupid people that wants to try to actually educate people, especially if they're giving me that thing. And what I didn't realize is that I shared some semi-political posts. I don't share full-on political posts if I can avoid it. But and some of them weren't even technically political. It's just the kind of belief behind them. Like one of them was a pro-choice thing, and then another had to do with it was just making fun of Trump, whatever. So she'll sit down there and spew out this whole list. She's a Trump supporter, so you see where I'm going with this. She spewed out this whole list of stuff. And then what had happened with some of the earlier ones is, excuse me, she'd say something, I'd rebut it. She got into a bit of a long conversation, so this argument with one of my friends who's a lot more left than I am. Excuse me. But anyway, she'd sit there and try to rebut back and forth, and it would be this interesting argument. So I finally got fed up with it and just unfriended her because it was just not going to work. It took me 3 posts, luckily only 3 posts, to realize that, yeah, no, I don't want her on my Facebook. She's just everything I come up that goes opposite her beliefs. She's going to come up with this huge fucking thing, a deal about how it's wrong, why it's wrong, and, oh, can you teach me? Well, I was scrolling a little later, I saw a thing on sea lining, and I'm like, that's what she was doing. And I happened to mention my sister. She's like, oh, I thought you meant Dad. I was like, no, Dad doesn't do that. She's like, no, yeah, no, I was going to say he doesn't. Because what my dad does, after this long-winded explanation getting to my actual fucking point, sorry, he actually, even if he disagrees with you, you bring up something, he doesn't just disagree. He will go research it to find not only his point of view, but also possibilities as to why there's an opposing point of view. He will find the opposing point of view. Now, does that mean he's going to change his mind? Probably not, but he's more well-informed. I mean, I do the same thing. That's what Libras do. We don't want to just, oh, this is what I see, and it's now law. We're going to sit there and, yeah, this is what I see, and it's kind of law for me, but you've brought up a good point, so let me go find these other points, other parts of it, and see how it enhances or destroys my law. That's what Libras are about. That's the justice, the truth finding, the scales. Scales have 2 sides of balance. This sword is a it's a double-edged sword because the truth cuts both ways. Um, Even the mermaid here, she's got two tails like legs, and they're perfectly even. They're almost exactly the same. I mean, one's turned different from the other, but whatever. I mean, hell, even just the way this picture is, you could probably cut it straight down the middle and you'd have a mirror image. I mean, well, granted my scales and sore, but you would have a mirror image of her and, well, okay, except for hair, whatever. Anyway, of course that's how humans work. I mean, cut me in half, you'd have a mirror image too. So, there's something biological with that, and I forget what it's called. It's been a while since science. Anyway, so that's Libra. That's why Libra's card is justice. It's they have to know. So, where did I go? Okay. You know, basically something that you might find interesting that I should probably have already put on this. The sun is in Libra from approximately September 23rd to approximately October 22nd. Give or take a couple of days because, you know, degrees and planets are not exact. Probably should have mentioned that earlier. Anyway, other parts of Libra is it is ruled by the planet Venus, or it rules the planet Venus. It's Venus in her, because Venus rules two astrological signs, Libra and Taurus, which I happen to have both of. So in Taurus, whereas in Taurus, Venus is in her love, just make everything comfortable, make it just beautiful and safe, kind of nesting type deal. Add a little bit, whereas in Taurus, Venus is in her sensual mode. Everything just must please the senses. In Libra, it's no longer, there's still that pleasing the senses type deal, but it's more open. It's no longer, this is my nest. It's now, welcome to my home. It's welcome to my nest. Welcome to Venus. Libra is where Venus opens up, where she is really that social butterfly, where she wants to plan, she wants to get everything just perfect, just beautiful, gorgeous. She wants everyone to appreciate it. It's where she's more, because Taurus is an earth sign, so it's more grounded and steady. Libra's an air sign. So Venus is no longer comfy. Venus is now, I want everyone to be comfy and just, I'm going to make this gorgeous. I'm just going to make it so gorgeous and just wonderful for everyone. And this is where Venus is more social, more just out and about, happy to do everything, happy to just make everything pretty. However, remember, air sign, Venus. Don't assume flighty little, oh, look at that pretty thing over there. And oh yeah, you might have, no, air still cuts. So don't piss a Libra off, because just think back to any Greek and Roman myth you've heard. Venus getting pissed off is not a good thing at all. So, roses have thorns. That could describe a Libra very well. That describes Venus and Libra very well. Roses have thorns. And not the little thorns, even though those are the most annoying, and prickly pears have really annoying little thorns that don't come out of your skin. Roses have those big, gigantic thorns that, you're not careful, are going to take a frickin' chunk out of you. So, because Venus rules Libra, another tarot card associated with Libra is Venus's tarot card, which is the Empress. So the Empress, I mean, I heard recently, because I was listening to Wildly Tarot podcast yesterday, and they happened to be talking about the Empress because they were talking about, they were reviewing the She-Wolf Tarot deck, which looked interesting, but not my thing. And they were talking about how in the She-Wolf Tarot, and I've seen this I've heard of this in a few other decks too, they renamed the Empress, the Divine Feminine. And the reason for doing that, the reason they liked it so much, is because they're like, the Empress has too many connotations, fertility and creation and pregnancy, and it's just too stereotypically woman. I've never found that with the Empress. Like, I find that with the Queen of Pentacles, that creation, pregnancy aspect, like the Queen of Pentacles. Here's my thinking on it with the Emperor and the Empress, just to kind of break it down. I also have to include the queens and the kings. So the Emperor is a culmination and a ascension of all four kings. Like, all four kings are aspected in the Emperor, and he's all four of them, but also a little bit. He's taken all four of those aspects and brought them up. Same thing with the Empress. She has taken all four of those different parts of the queens, all four different queens, all four different parts. She's culminated them and brought them up. And, like, she's ascended them. So even though I know there is quite a lot of traditional with the Empress of it being, and we'll get into this more when I actually do cover the Empress, which should be here shortly. No, next month. Next month I'll be doing the Empress. It's High Priestess next week. But anyway, it's a culmination of all four of the queens and their ascendant. So I don't see that. So even though I know the traditional is, oh, it's birth and creation and the womb and whatnot, I can't associate it strictly with your stereotypical cultural feminine of the mother. I just can't. She is the Empress. I mean, think about an Empress. Just take away the tarot cards and think about the traditional, what an Empress is in our history, like in human history. It's someone who's ruling or is supporting the ruler of an entire empire. That is what the feminine ruler of an empire. She's not just all about the babies and the crops or the agricultural and the growing and the spring and summer. It's not. She is a ruler of an empire. She is power and dominion. It's the same thing with the Emperor. Whereas the Emperor, it's like, it's that obvious, like, right out in your face ruler. The Empress is a little subtler, a little farther back, but she's still a ruler. She is the earth. She's where the Emperor is fire, she's more the earth, because she's Venus. Earth and water, whereas the Emperor is fire and air. So she's a little bit more calm, steady in the background, but she's still a frickin' ruler. She is powerful. She has, I mean, seriously, you see her just sitting back, popping out babies or something? No, she's ready to go. So, it's just like, I don't see that whole, I don't quite get it, because it's not, it's like, you want divine feminine? Yeah, that's divine feminine right there, no matter what you call it. She is powerful, she is moving, she's creating. The Emperor expands, she creates to fill that expansion. So anyway, that's a tarot card for Venus. Now, one I think I've learned about this a long time ago. But another tarot card, there are a few other tarot cards I found through this apothecary website that were associated with different parts of the Libra birth chart, but since I didn't quite understand, I have to sit with it a little while. I'll just name them out as it's the different blocks of dates. So from like September 23rd to October 2nd was the Two of Swords, and then the 3rd to the 12th, Three of Swords, and the 13th to the 22nd was the Four of Swords. I don't quite understand that reasoning, so I didn't bring them out, but I'm going to go ahead and mention them anyway. Another card associated with Libra, which did make sense to me, was the Queen of Swords. And the reason this makes sense to me is because this is air and water combined, correct. She is the mental side of the heart. She's got her heart and her mind ruling together in balance. And the reason that really makes sense to me is because you can see her, like I was talking about, how the Empress is a culmination of all four queens. Well, in Libra, this part of the Empress gets pulled out because it's part of justice. So a combination of justice and the Empress equals Queen of Swords. Justice plus the Empress equals Queen of Swords. So I thought that was really cool and an interesting way of looking at it. I'm going to go through that apothecary website stuff, see what else I can find on her other zodiacs, because that honestly is really fascinating. Yeah, so the Queen of Swords is that ruler of mind and heart. She's very much in her heart self, but she brings her mind into it very strongly. She's kind of a little bit more cold, calculated, logical. But she's not without her empathy. I mean, in her shadow side she is, but we're not going to get into the shadow side of this, because it's in a full tarot thing. Alright, 1 second. Sorry, Mutt was trying to wander off where I couldn't see him. Alright, so, another thing this apothecary brought up that I hadn't heard of before was the solar gemstone for a sign. So, she put the solar gemstone as blue aventurine. So, a little bit about blue aventurine. It's a positive stone of prosperity used to grid against geopathic stress, you know, like around your home or business or garden or whatever. You put a grid of blue aventurine, or just aventurine, honestly, because it's usually blue. So you put a grid of aventurine around to kind of guard against geopathic stress, you know, earthquakes and whatnot, or even just the land shifting, you know, how it does, and you suddenly have your house is no longer sitting like this, but a little bit like that, separating. So against geopathic stress. It's also used to clear out electromagnetic smog and protects against environmental pollution. It also diffuses negative situations and turns them around, reinforces leadership qualities and decisiveness, and there's a few other things. I got this out of the Crystal Bible by Judy Hall, by the way. Pull it up. Psychologically, aventurine reinforces leadership qualities and decisiveness, promotes compassion and empathy, and encourages perseverance. Takes you back into the past to find sources of disease. The stone relieves stammers and severe neurosis, bringing understanding of what lies behind these conditions. Aventurine stabilizes one's state of mind, stimulates perception, enhances creativity. Oh, that was a bird. Sees alternatives and possibilities, especially those presented by other people, which Libras like to do a lot. Brings together the intellectual and emotional bodies. Again, we have right there, Queen of Swords. Calms anger and irritation, stimulates emotional recovery, and enables living within one's own heart. Alright, sorry about that. Where was I? String calms anger and irritation. Okay, I already read that. Sorry about that. My sister got home, so it took a couple minutes. Physically, aventurine promotes a feeling of well-being, regulates growth from birth to 7 years, balances male-female energy, and encourages regeneration of the heart. Spiritually, aventurine protects the heart chakra, guarding against the psychic vampirism of heart energy. So that's another interesting thing about Libra is it's ruled by Venus, which is a feminine planet. Technically, it is an air sign and a cardinal sign, and where it falls in the male-female, passive receptive cycle of the zodiac, it's technically a masculine sign. But just due to Libra's nature, like, you know, what it's ruled by, all the different parts of it, it's kind of an androgynous sign. It's both it's kind of both feminine and masculine. It's, which, I mean, plays back to the justice. It is a duality sign. It takes the two, not the same type of duality as Gemini would be, but it takes opposing, takes polar opposites, and complementaries and whatever. It takes the opposings and it brings them together into balance. And so, interesting thing about Libra. So also, real quick, I'm gonna do like I did last week. Gonna read from my complete guide to astrology, the her synopsis of the sun sign and the rising sign. So if you have your sun in Libra, this is what she has to, Louise Eddington has to say about it. Libra is the 7th sign of the zodiac. Libra season has the sun transitioning the sign from around September 21st to October 20th, usually a little later. Libra is a day cardinal air sign. Libra is ruled by Venus in her more cerebral incarnation. The symbol of Libra is the scales, and its glyph reflects both balance and the setting sun as we enter autumn in the northern hemisphere, or the rising sun in the southern hemisphere. That's the other thing, is in the southern hemisphere, Libra is actually the beginning of spring, which is an interesting. Aries is the sign of polarity. Peridot and topaz are Libra's lucky gemstones, and the associated metal is copper. The kidneys, skin, lower back, and buttocks are ruled by Libra. Balance is the primary word for Libras because they try to find the middle ground and harmonious balance in all that they do. Libra is the diplomat and mediator of the zodiac. Because of that, they can come across as indecisive, vacillating, and even passive-aggressive at times. Guilty. Inwardly, they are focused on others and relationships. Examples of well-known Librans are Mahatma Gandhi, sweet, Serena Williams, Will Smith, yes, and Oscar Wilde. And that was Laguz. Alright, and then for the ascendant or rising sign, if you have Libra rising, which I don't, Libra rising individuals are very pleasant and charming to be around. They dislike conflict, so they're always seeking to mediate and play nice. They are generally attractive to look at and have a lovely, round, and sweet-looking appearance that adds to their charm. They are often slender. People are just attracted to Libra rising individuals who like to have relationships with others because they tend to see themselves through others' eyes and find it hard to be alone. They can also have a tendency to have a passive-aggressive streak in relationships, as they may expect others to fulfill unrealistic expectations. This is a product of their well-known indecisiveness, as they are constantly trying to balance those Libra scales by looking at all sides. The ruling planet of Libra rising is Venus in her less manifest energy of loving beauty, relationship, and harmony. The placement of Venus and any planets close to the ascendant will modify the rising sign. If Mars is conjuncting the ascendant, for example, the tendency towards passive aggression will be heightened. Jennifer Aniston, Leonardo DiCaprio, Sally Field, and Venus Williams are all Libra rising. So yeah, that's a little bit about if you have Libra in your sun or your ascendant. Okay, I think that's enough on Libra, since it's been 30 minutes and I'm trying to cut these down a little bit. So since we already kind of started talking about the stones, we'll go ahead and talk about the stone of pitch, which is also a Libra stone. Labradorite. I have some. I could have sworn I had another piece that had more color in it, but I can't remember. So Labradorite is kind of a grayish green stone, and this one doesn't have a whole lot of it, so it probably won't show up on camera. But usually if you turn them, you'll catch, and I think it has it in that side. Doesn't want it. It's got a little speck right there. Basically what they have is a little bit of, they've usually got kind of flashes of blue and kind of greenish specks, so yeah, it's right on that corner. I doubt you'll see it. But yeah, it's basically blue that kind of shines when you turn them just right, and a little bit of yellow and green. There is such a thing as yellow labradorite. I'll get into that. Kind of the myth behind these, told by one of the most well-known myths, told by the Inuit people, or the people, I believe. Inuit might just mean people. Is that, I don't know the whole myth, but basically the synopsis of it is the Aurora Borealis got caught in ice and it turned into Labradorite, into stone. So the little flashes you see in Labradorite are technically the Aurora Borealis, which I think is really cool and part of why I like it so much. Usually the pieces you'll see, I was given this by a friend, so it's not the coolest looking piece, but if you look it up on Google, you'll see ones that are like, there's a little bit of gray-green, but it's pretty much just all you're seeing is the blue and stuff, and that's what you usually find in shops. This one is kind of unique because it's mostly just the gray-green with little flashes of blue along the edges. Like, I think it's just got like one spot, so I have a little bitty piece of Aurora Borealis. So again, this is going to come from the Crystal Bible. I'm going to read on this. So, stuff to know about Labradorite. It's a readily available. It's stone. It's not exactly rare. Sources, it can be found in Italy, Greenland, Finland, Russia, Canada, and Scandinavia. Attributes. Iridescent labradorite is a highly mystical and protective stone, a bringer of light. It raises consciousness and connects with universal energies. Labradorite deflects unwanted energies from the aura and prevents energy leakage. Forms a barrier to negative energies shed during therapy. It can take you into another world or into other lives. A stone of esoteric knowledge, it facilitates initiation into the mysteries. Labradorite aligns the physical and etheric bodies and accesses spiritual purpose. It raises consciousness and grounds spiritual energies into the physical body. This stone stimulates intuition and psychic gifts, including the art of right timing, bringing messages from the unconscious mind to the surface and facilitating their understanding. Psychologically, Labradorite banishes fears and insecurities and the psychic debris from previous disappointments, including those experienced in past lives. Strengthens faith in the self and trust in the universe. It removes other people's projections, including thought forms that have hooked into the aura. Labradorite calms an overactive mind and energizes the imagination, bringing up new ideas. Analysis and rationality are balanced with the inner sight. Labradorite brings contemplation and introspection, synthesizing intellectual thought with intuitive wisdom. Libra aspects basically all right in that past few sentences. It is an excellent dispeller of illusions, going to the root of a matter and showing the real intention behind thoughts and actions. The stone brings up suppressed memories from the past. So right all that for the last few sentences, we see a lot of Libra associations. Labradorite is a useful companion through change, imparting strength and perseverance. A stone of transformation, it prepares body and soul for the ascension process. Which, like most of that, I know quite a few psychic healer friends type deal that absolutely adore Labradorite. I know one lady that loves it like a lot. She absolutely adores it. Healing. Labradorite treats disorders of the eyes and brain, relieves stress and regulates metabolism, treats colds, gout, and rheumatism, balances hormones and relieves menstrual tension and lowers blood pressure. Labradorite can be used as a witness during radionic treatment, pinpointing the cause of the disease. Position. Wear over the higher heart chakra. So if your heart chakra is kind of right around here, I'm assuming over the higher heart chakra probably means up around here. Hold or place is appropriate. And hold or place is appropriate. Specific color. In addition to the generic attributes, the following color has additional properties. So, right there, yellow labradorite. That's basically clear with kind of yellowish tinge. Yellow labradorite accesses the highest levels of consciousness, enhances visualization, trance, clairvoyance, and channeling. It is beneficial for the solar plexus chakra and expands the mental body, bringing in higher wisdom. It heals the stomach, spleen, liver, gallbladder, and adrenal glands. Position. Place on third eye, solar plexus, or hold. So that's a little bit about Labradorite, which honestly I think is a pretty cool stone. I have a slight resistance to wanting it to be my favorite stone just because it is so damn popular, and for some reason that always just makes me but I really do love this stuff. Alright, so for the herb, I decided to use thyme because even though I was looking for something that started with an L, there are no herbs or plants associated with Libra that start with an L. So I went with thyme, because it was kind of fun. A bunch of L's and then T. Alright, so thyme is a feminine plant. It just means it's receptive, passive. Its main element is water. It's ruled by Venus, like Libra is. Its properties are for health, healing, sleep, psychic powers, love, purification, and courage. Oh, and this is all from Scott Cunningham's Herbal Encyclopedia of Herbs, whatever it's called. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's Scott Cunningham. What to use thyme for? You can burn it to either attract good health, purify and cleanse an area, or purify and cleanse an area. That was actually something the Greeks used to do, apparently. So you can burn it like right before a ritual or something to kind of just purify the area. You can also wear it to attract good health. Or to aid in developing psychic powers. You can wear it in your hair to make yourself absolutely irresistible, which sounds interesting. You can also wear it, it's also worn and carried to be able to see the fairies, so have fun with that. And if you both, and then another thing you can use it for is you can carry it and smell it to kind of give courage and energy, just kind of enhance a little bit. A few other things you can do at thyme. You can put it beneath your pillow to aid in a good night's sleep, to kind of help keep the nightmares away. You can take a bath of thyme and marjoram in the spring. So basically, in the spring, take a magical bath mix of thyme and marjoram to ensure all sorrows and ills of the past are removed and left behind. So it's a little bit on thyme. I love using thyme for stuff. Alright. Oh, excuse me. So that's all I got on that. So, alright, on to our rune. And I picked the rune Laguz. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. So, Laguz, which means lake, and again, I'm gonna be reading out of Leaves of Yggdrasil by Freya Asmund, because I love her stuff. And funnily enough, I went to go find this one last night, see where it was in my book, and hey, it's right where I'm technically still at, because have I read this whole thing? No. Alright, so the Germanic name is Laguz, the Anglo-Saxon name is Lagu, Old Norse name Logar, and its phonetic value is L, and traditional meaning is lake. This rune is feminine. The goddess associated with Laguz is Nerthus. She is probably the oldest goddess known from Germanic sources, and she is worshipped on an island in a lake, possibly in Phrygia. She was supposed to bestow blessings wherever she visited. Once a year, everyone laid down their weapons while her wagon was ritually driven around the mainland. It is not clear whether this ritual took place in spring or in autumn. A remnant of it was observed in medieval Holland, where a decorated ship was used in processions. Eventually, however, the church put a stop to this practice, which was also probably connected with the custom of ship burial. Nerthus corresponds to the Scandinavian god Njord, who is also the patron of the sea and harbors. So, interesting. I kind of picked this up, and then I was reading a little bit on it, and I'm like, you know, this really does fall in a lot with Libra, because basically the deities associated with this rune was originally a goddess, and then later who was also associated with a god, or corresponded with a god. Indeed, they may be either one and the same god, or else husband and wife to each other. Both possibilities have been suggested by various writers on the mythology of the North. In Holland, we know of a native goddess named Nehelania. A statue of her dating from the 1st century has been found in Walcheren, one of the islands now forming the Dutch province of Zeeland. She is portrayed with a dog and a basket of apples, and she was sometimes described as holding a horn of plenty. Njord is comparable in this respect, for he is also invoked for peace and plenty. Njord and consequently Nerthus are the parents of Frey and Freya. Their rune Laguz precedes the Inga's rune, which is primarily the rune of Frey and secondarily the rune of Freya. This again shows that there is a coherent system in the sequence of the Futhark. Indeed, if we refer back to the previous runes in this 8, we might be tempted to draw the conclusion that Nerthus is the unnamed goddess who is the hypothetical mother of Tuisko and is possibly identical with Berkta, the goddess of the Berkana rune. Manaz is their son, and Yngvi is one of the sons of Manaz. Yngvi, or Yngvi in the Scandinavian tradition, is another name for Frey, who is Freya's twin brother. If Manaz and Heimdall are one and the same, it would explain the relationship between Freya and Heimdall. From Norse sources, we know that Heimdall is Freya's lekr, or guardian, a function which in Norse society was often taken up by either the maternal uncle or the elder brother. This tradition goes back to prehistoric times when men were not aware of their role in the procreative act, and the maternal uncle was regarded as the proven blood relative of the child and responsible for its welfare. This is some indication of the great antiquity of northern mythology. Laguz also had an Old Norse form, Logur Alakor. This word means sorcery, which is one of the rune's functions. Sorcery, or Seder, was in particular practiced in the Vanir cult. All the gods and goddesses mentioned above in relation to this rune, with the possible exception of Tuisko, are Vanir gods. It is Freya who introduced sorcery to the Aesir, teaching it to Odin. Laguz's meaning of lake, water, or sea, interpreted according to modern occult thinking, may reflect the astral substance. Water takes the shape of its container, and the astral or etheric matter can also be formed at will by visualization and concentration. The concentrated imagination forms the vessel in which the energy is contained. Laguz can be inverted, it can also be reversed. When inverted, its meaning becomes negated. When reversed, it refers to the tide. An active Laguz rune symbolizes the flooding tide, and an inactive Laguz rune means the ebbing of the tide. So that's active, inactive. In divination, this rune can be used to infer whether a particular project has been carried by a favorable tide. Laguz is a powerful rune for occult work of a beneficial nature. Thus, it differs from Hagalaz. Water, like the astral, is a transmitting agency or a mediating and conducting principle. Laguz can be used to influence others or to invade other people's dream states. By projecting the Laguz rune between the eyes of an unsuspecting person, any reasonable request is more likely to elicit a positive response. Laguz, according to some German writers, also means love or life. There is some truth in this interpretation, for Laguz may well symbolize the waters of life. It also represents the forces of mutual attraction called love. In fact, the shape of Laguz is that of a half Ewaz, as has already been explained, and Ewaz is the rune of partnerships and marriages. So for divination with Laguz, its basic meaning, or keyword meanings, are emotion, stability, imagination, psychic matters, and affections. And when using in magical applications, where is it? Laguz is strongly connected with the occult. Its name is linked to Logur or Lakor, which are words for sorcery, and sorcery is the usual use of this rune. It is used to gain access to someone else's unconsciousness. Projected between the eyes of a person on making a request, a positive reply will be more likely. Of course, it would be nonsense to approach a bank manager with a request for £1 million, for in practical magic one must work with what is reasonable and not expect the impossible. This rune might work, however, in a request for genuinely earned pay rise. Magically, Laguz can also be used to attract love. So, interesting rune that I didn't know a whole lot about, except covering it. It's honestly really cool. It kind of fits pretty well with Libra as well, given the fact that it's used kind of a mediative rune, as the waters of life, kind of the love right there. So Venus is, I believe Venus's elemental association is water. So you have that association, and then kind of being able to use it to enhance your requests, kind of adds into that little bit of a Libra sign. Alright, we're not doing too bad on time. Alright, so last bit. Again, we're reading from my book of fairy spells. And like I said, I'm going to read the Attract Fairy Friend spell. So fairies love to find special private places they can call their own, and if you can create one for them, you might just find they move right in. This spell will help you create and dedicate such a place, a tiny grotto in your garden, or even in your home. So another thing is, another reason I picked Thyme. Well, I'd already picked Thyme, and then this came up. Fairies apparently love thyme. So the timings for this spell are the waxing moon, Wednesday, daytime. Find and gather a collection of small treasures, such as stones, crystals, shells, plants, ribbons, bells, wind chimes, flowers, etc. Need one pink and one green candle, a few tablespoons of wine in a tiny glass, a small piece of cake, a saucer, a bunch of thyme, Thymus vulgaris. Most of us know what thyme is. Matches. The spell. Create a small space in your garden, or perhaps you could set up a corner of your home. Perhaps a bookcase shelf or a lovely old open wooden box could be used, as long as it is somewhere that is to be dedicated as a home for fairies and nothing else. Decorate it with all the lovely treasures you've collected. Place the pink candle on one side of this fairy grotto and the green on the other. Light and say, "Welcome, fairy folk. You may make this your home, but only the good may stop as they roam." Place the wine and cake next to the entrance and say, "I offer you shelter. I offer you treats. My promise to tend you I will always keep." Decorate the grotto with springs of thyme. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be sprigs of thyme. Make sure you do keep your promise and keep the grotto clean and tiny, and feed your fairies with milk, honey, bread, and cakes. If you fail to do so, they will move on. A couple of little side notes she's got here. Ensure that you leave offerings at the full moon, at the change of season, and on celebratory days. They will love treats of sparkling and still wine, special cakes, sweets, and the thoughtful little gifts at these times. Fairies love thyme, but so do bees. You would be well advised to plant thyme or place a small pot of thyme next to your grotto for your fairies. Thyme means courage and strength, and ancient Greek and Roman soldiers would bathe in water infused with thyme to boost their bravery and energy. So, a little bit extra on time there. And we're actually doing pretty good on time. I absolutely love what I can make with this. So that's everything I got for you today, and I really need to try to keep these under an hour like I'm doing, and we're just at 52 minutes, and it's probably going to go a little bit longer. Excuse me. Jeebus. Sorry. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. I hope y'all enjoy your week. Like, comment, and subscribe down below here on YouTube, or find me on Facebook at Bags and Omens with an ampersand. You can also find me on Patreon at patreon.com/bagsandomens. If you want to send me an email, it's bagsandomens@gmail.com. Yeah, that's all I got for today. So, have a great week. I will see you next week when we dive headlong into the High Priestess. So, alright, have fun. Bye-bye.